What's up, everybody? It's review time, and today it's all about Resident Evil 7. So let's jump right into the good things. Number 1, the return to horror. Like I mentioned, the game definitely wants to be scarier this time around, and you will discover this within the first few minutes of the game. A lot of elements come into play when it comes to making a good survival horror game, like sound. The sound is really good in this game. It often will be the thing that will creep you out. And also the fact that you are being chased by the Bucker family pretty much throughout the entire game. Like, you have to deal with the father, the mother, the son, and a lot of the twisted things that they say and do will creep you out. Sometimes you can hear them in a different room. Sometimes you can hear them above you. And I don't know, that whole entire formula really works well to make the game scarier. And that is a key thing that Capcom wanted to do in this game, is to make the game feel like Resident Evil. Number 2, also on the good list, is the gameplay. With a good Resident Evil vibe of horror, you have to have the gameplay. Well, the game is first-person view, but the game plays a lot like an old Resident Evil game. You have to look for items. You have to find out ways to open up doors. You even there's a few little twists, like you have to mix healing items to make actual stronger items. You can also make your ammunition, which will be stronger. Like, there's a few little twists on some of the classic Resident Evil elements that makes it fun and more up to date. But the key element is still, you get a key to open up a door, you have to do backtracking, and a lot of that makes the game feel like a adventure, which is a very key element to the old Resident Evil games. Now, the third and final good thing about this game is the unknown factor. Not knowing what to expect as far as story, not knowing what to expect around the corner was a very big part of the fear factor as well. You know, there's a lot of times in the game that the game did a good job of creeping you out, and there would be nothing ahead, or you feel like you are safe, then something will happen. So the big gameplay factor is definitely not knowing what to expect coming up. With that being said, I want to talk about the bad things. And get ready, because there's a few of them. So, number 1, the first bad thing would actually be the story. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I would say that it was disappointing. It was disappointing because they had the idea of the Bucker family. They had this whole mystery behind it, and there was so much hype behind so much of the story that there are these crazy fan theories. And honest to God, all these fan theories would have been 3 times better than the actual story of the game. The actual story of the game becomes very typical Resident Evil. And when you find out what happens and kind of like what causes a lot of this, I'm not gonna lie to you, to me it ruined the game. It made me second guess the entire game. And there's also certain elements that makes me wonder, is this actually Resident Evil 7? Or should Resident Evil 7 just be called Resident Evil VR? Just because they wanted to make a VR game, and they know 7 will make it sell more. So I think there's like a whole identity crisis also between those two. Like, that's just my opinion. Number 3 is the bosses are too easy. Now, all the bosses are pretty disappointing in this game. Sometimes they may look cool, but like, they become very basic in their patterns. You find their weak spots, and honestly, they're just too easy. Like, excuse me, most of the time, by the time you get to a boss, you are pretty much well equipped for the boss, and you can deal with them with ease. There's not really much to talk about there. The bosses are just way too easy. Number 4, that's actually number 3 on the negative side. After the first few hours of the game, it became kind of very straightforward, kind of more action. And you will find that you were more equipped, like I mentioned, with the bosses, and you just, all honestly, after the first few hours, the game kind of falls apart a little bit. And that's when the story starts coming more into play, and you just kind of start losing interest in a lot of things. And there's also next element I'm going to talk about is there are certain things in the game that should not be here. Now, okay, now I'm kind of going to go off what I'm reading, because I actually wrote this review down. I'm just going to talk about this now. There are key elements in this game that should not be here. And some of these key elements are very scripted scenarios that are placed in this game just because of VR. And I think this is where it comes back to what I said earlier. There might be a identity crisis between this Resident Evil 7 game and a Resident Evil VR game. And I think they wanted to have a 7 just to make it sell more. Because they are very scripted scenes, and you will notice them literally within the first 5 minutes of the game. First 5 minutes of the game, there's a pretty terrifying moment, but that moment is very VR scripted. And if that moment was not VR scripted, it might actually would have freaked me out more. But I'm not playing with VR, so like everything feels like it's on the rails. I feel like my head is stuck in this position. I can't really get into the moment, and that happens several times throughout the game. And every time it happens, yes, there can be cool moments. Yes, it can be creepy, but at the same time, it kind of like you're just like, wow, I can tell this is made for VR, and like that really drives you out of the experience. And there's not really much I can really say other than that. Like you will notice it. It's one of those things as a gamer you will didn't notice it. But overall, Resident Evil is a pretty okay game. I think I have took a lot of time to process it and to kind of try to come up with a fact. Is it a good game? Is it a bad game? I think it's a little bit more on it's an okay game. Like it has some good things going for it, but there's definitely a lot more negatives. Like the game falls apart, I think, halfway through it. The story becomes very generic. The whole survival horror element kind of goes away because like the first few hours of the game is like focused on you building up and trying to learn stuff. But like once you start learning stuff, you just get too strong. And I don't know. There's like a whole lot of elements. Like when you play it, you would really enjoy it. But overall, I have to give Resident Evil 7 probably like... It's kind of hard to even rate it because like I really enjoyed my first playthrough, but the more and more I think about it, I think I'm going to give the score of a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad score, it's a very average score. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll see you soon.